Welcome to Simply Sheppy, your community podcast which aims to create and enhance connections within the community to build a better Sheppy. Hello and welcome. This episode. Hello. And you have agreed to join us again, Dawn.
Oh, I know, I'm hogging the airwaves here.
You are, but you just have so much to say, and it's a real privilege for us to have you back on again today. And this time you're going to talk to us in your capacity as founder of the Harmony Therapy Trust, quite an important charity on the island, I believe.
That's right, but it's not only important on the island, it now covers the whole of Kent.
Goodness
which
me,
is amazing. It's wonderful that the island and the community on the island support it so much, because without that we wouldn't be where we are today.
Okay, so could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how this trust came about?
Okay, well, like a lot of people, I've experienced cancer in the family. My eldest sister died in 1987 with cancer. And then her eldest daughter, so my eldest niece, also had breast cancer, and she died in 2007. 2004, my middle sister had breast cancer, and we thought she'd beaten it. And then January 2010, we learnt that it had come back. So it was metastatic breast cancer, and it had spread. And whilst I love all my family, I have to say my sisters were 10 and 15 years older than me. So whilst I love all my family, I was closer probably to my middle sister because of the age gap was shorter. And the news was quite devastating because having already lost two members, close members of the family to cancer, I just couldn't bear, how things were happening for Sylvia. So during the first quarter of 2010, I was journeying backwards and forwards. I'd already retired from work, and I'd started my own therapy clinic because I was a reflexologist, which I did part-time when I was working. And my sister lived in a village called Fairlight near Hastings, lovely little village. So I was journeying backwards and forwards from Sheppey to Fairlight. So I spent half the week with her, half the week come back and work with my company with health and reflexology related things like massage and Indian head massage and things like that. And as I'm journeying, I remembered that my sister was also a retired reflexologist, and I remembered that she was getting help from the Sarah Lee Trust, which was a charity that provided free therapy for people who had cancer and other life-limiting conditions in the area of Hastings and Rother. And as I'm journeying backwards and forwards, I had plenty of thinking time because it was taking me about an hour there and back. And don't forget, I was doing this, 2 or 3 times a week. And I thought, there's nothing like this in Kent. Where do people go in Kent if they want some help? They're getting marvelous help with their chemotherapy and their radiotherapy, or if they've got multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's, they've got organizations they can belong to. But there is no therapy help as far as I know, unless they happen to be with Guy's Hospital or one of the big hospitals that have therapy departments. And then I thought, and I always call it the angel on my shoulder, I always thought, well, hang on a minute, you're a therapist, lots of other therapists, you can do something about it. So the next time I went back to my sister's, I said to her, look, I've been thinking, in Kent, we need something like the Sarah Lee Trust. And she just said, well, go for it. And so that May, as she was getting worse, I decided to get people together, my friends and other therapists, and I had them in a meeting, and we went down to the Bluetown Heritage Centre, which was similarly starting as a charity in those days. And Jenny said, look, you can use our rooms. We can't use them at the moment, so you can use our rooms free of charge for your meetings. And that's what we did. In the first meeting, I thought, only a few people have come along. Well, the room was packed. And when I told people what my idea was, I thought, they're going to say, don't be silly, you don't know anything about charities, etc. And I just got wholehearted support. So we went to the Charity Commission. drew down the document that they required, you know, the foundation document, which sets out the rules and regulations of the charity. And I think that was May the 5th. We then had to have another meeting in October with the trustees that we'd formed, because they didn't like the way the document was set out. So we had to reset the document. And then by the time January 2011 came, we got charitable status.
Congratulations.
In the meantime, whilst in that gap between, I have to say that the support that we got from the various organisations around the town and also in, you know, the Minster Village and everything else. Ray and Caroline Seeger, who run the Minster Working Men's Club, gave us free of charge their room, and we put on a dinner dance, and we had the greatest of fun, and we raised £2,500, because you have to have £5,000 to register to be a charity. There is money involved. Well, you have to prove that you're financially viable. And so with this £2,500, and I mean the things that people did, we had two very lovely chaps who are twins who live on the island, Richard and Gareth Jones. They dressed up as centurions, and they did an auction. We auctioned people, but people were giving their services, like somebody was going to cut the grass, and somebody was going to give a massage, and somebody was going to, you know, so there was all sorts of things. But we were actually, it was like being in a Roman slave market. We were auctioning the people, and we had music, and we just had a whale of a time. People just did the photography for free. So we had, before photograph booths, we had this sort of photograph booth going on. And this £2,500, we then added on with various events. Now, since then, obviously, some of the trustees at the time have retired. We've had some marvellous people help us. And we got going, so that by the time we got our charitable status in January, we'd got the money. That first year, we treated 9 patients, and they were referred to us by the hospitals, mainly Medway Hospital, I must say, at the time. But then gradually, as the nurses and doctors started to talk about us, we then got referrals coming in from Maidstone Hospital and Kent and Canterbury. The next year, we had, I think it was 23 referrals, and the year after that. So every year it was building up and building up. And until we had the COVID problem, which was 18 months ago, really, in real terms, because obviously we were building up for our annual year. Our last count that we made, a proper audit of the amount of people that had come through our hands, was nearly 700 people per year.
Per year?
Per year.
From 9? From
9. We should have had our 10th anniversary last year, but of course we didn't, which I'll go into in a minute. But we now get referrals from all over the Kent hospitals, the Kent hospices, GP practices. Our requirement is it must be a medical referral, simply because it's threefold. Sometimes people self-diagnose and think they've got something wrong with them when they haven't. Secondly, we need to know as much about that person before we take them on as we can. So we need to know, you know, have they got blood clots? Because obviously sometimes the things are contraindicated. You can't have therapy. There's certain things wrong with you. And we also need to know that it is bona fide, because unfortunately, the third thing is occasionally we have had people try to self-refer because, of course, the treatments are free. And they think, oh, it's free, I'll have some of that. Very, very few and far between. I think we've had about 2. But we had to make this acceptable to the Charity Commission by saying, look, we're going to have medical referrals. So we work hand in hand with the NHS and with private hospitals, not because private medicine, we give it free, because we don't means test, we don't do anything like that. But a lot of people have medical insurance through their company. So they still wouldn't be able to afford therapy in any event. And the fact that they have private medicine is simply because their firm might have joined them into Bupa or Genesis Care or something similar. So we do not differentiate between NHS patients and private patients. Our criteria is that they need our help, and we're there, and we give 6 free treatments, and that's how we look at it.
Sounds good. Sounds very fair, and I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they're referred to you, what are the aims of the Harmony Trust?
Basically, somebody that is seriously ill with a long-term illness is going through a lot of medical intervention, and whether it's both private or NHS referred, and let me say we don't make any difference, because quite often people have the benefit of private medical treatment through a benefit of their employment as part of their salary package. So quite often people that come to us that are sent to us by, say, Kim's or Genesis Care, they come to us because they've had a referral from the nurse or the doctor that's dealing with them. But it doesn't mean that they've got lots and lots of money and we're giving them a free treatment. We just treat everybody the same. It doesn't matter to us what their background is at all. So they come to us and we are able to provide therapies that support their wellness and their well-being and their mental health, because going through all of that intervention and not knowing the prognosis is very, very difficult for people. So we're able to be there where perhaps nurses and doctors don't have the time to be there. So they not only get the therapy from the therapist, but they get a good hour of somebody listening to them, somebody who's not related to them, so who's not going to be judgmental, who's not going to say, oh, fancy you thinking that, or whatever it might be that they want to talk about. So the important side of Harmony is we are complementary. We don't use alternatives. We don't use things like crystals or anything like that. We do use reflexology, massage, manual lymphatic drainage for people with lymphedema as a result of their treatment, especially in breast cancer and ovarian cancer. The lymph glands swell up, so we have manual lymphatic drainage. We're able to do so many different treatments that are accepted by the NHS as being complementary to conventional medicine. It's helping the recovery of that patient, or is also if the prognosis is poor, it's also helping them to deal with and cope with. They've got me time, it's a feel-good hour that they have. Sometimes our therapists give more than an hour, it depends on the situation. If someone's very, very poorly, they'll only have half an hour treatment from us. But that's the essential thing. We are there to support the NHS medical treatment, probably to be more effective, not just through the relaxation and the help that therapists can give, but also supporting that mental wellness and well-being, which is so important. It's
sort of adding a holistic side to it.
Yes,
and it's treating the whole person as well as the illness, which, you know, obviously if you feel better in yourself and the rest of you feels better, then you are better able to deal with.
Absolutely. And you use the word holistic. It's very poorly understood. People hear the word holistic and they always think immediately touchy-feely type treatments. They don't understand that the idea of holistic means treating that whole person. So that means the conventional medical intervention. It means mental health support. It means wellness and well-being. It means the feel-good factor. It means supporting the member of the family. It means we also give 2 free treatments to the carer. Now, we can only afford, with the limited funds we've got, to treat the carers of the patients referred to us. We can't do every care. I wish we could, but we just can't. So the encompassing the idea of holistic, I wish people would get away from the idea that holistic means, you know, touchy-feely therapies. Holistic means looking at that person in its entirety, whether they need exercise, whether they you know, they need the hair doing. Not that we offer hairdos or anything like that, but it means everything that makes them feel better in themselves.
Exactly, and that helps with the cancer recovery, but it also helps with them to deal with life after the cancer as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, or people with Parkinson's, because they know that that's a progressive and multiple sclerosis, whether you've got relapse and remitting or continuing problems, people recovering from stroke. And we do feel that we will be getting referrals from people with long COVID, not too far in the distant future, because there's lots of side effects of that.
There are, and it's not known yet, is it? What the long-term effects
sadly,
of that's
we
going
don't
to be.
know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, but I suppose if there's this service that they're able to have, then hopefully that can go towards finding a solution. Yeah. And talking of COVID, how has the Harmony Trust been affected by coronavirus?
Oh, well, I said to you I was going to refer back to our 10th anniversary, 2010. Yeah. Ken and Canterbury Hospital, and I'd love for them to be able to see this podcast. They were going to put on a pink and green ball for us last May. And of course, that had to be cancelled. And that was going to be at the lodge at Canterbury Cathedral. It was going to be a real money spinner. And also the Kent Police Male Voice Choir were going to also put on a wonderful concert for us. Again, that would have been at Westgate Hall. Again, really good income there. We were planning to have a 10th anniversary dinner dance back at Minster Working Men's Club, where it all started, because they gave us so much support. And we were in sort of early talks with Ray and Caroline Seeger about that. And of course, everything just went pie in the sky. Yeah. We've managed to do some online fundraising through sale of Christmas cakes and Easter cakes. We have a terrific guy, Jeff Payne, who lives in Gravesend, and he was a client of ours referred to us by Gravesend Hospital. And he, after he'd had his treatments from us, you know, it's not a bloke thing to have therapy. They tend to think, oh. But after he'd had his treatments with us, he just said it made so much difference to his life that he became one of our biggest fundraisers. He did bike rides that were organised by the Kent Messenger Group. He's organised darts and that down at Gravesend and Dartford End. He's just been fantastic. Now, and he had a friend who was aware of our plight of lack of funding, and she made 2 Christmas cakes, which we raffled at Christmas. And just recently we've raffled 2 Easter Simnel cakes. She made them again for us. And he's always getting his friends involved to doing things for us. And that's just so wonderful. We have another therapist down in Dover, Julian Pollard, and she is just amazing. She's done a Mad Hatter's Tea Party. She organised the first pink and green ball that we had way back. We had lots of people fairly well known in the, I don't want to use the word amateur, but because they are professional in what they do, but singers that came and gave their stuff and their music to us free of charge. Wow. And so we've just had some wonderful people that have helped us, and I could just keep on naming people, and that just wouldn't be fair. The cricketer Sam Billings came on board as one of our I don't want to say promoters, I'm just trying to think, ambassadors. We haven't been able to do a lot with him since he joined us, but because obviously he's away now playing cricket, but we hope to be able to get him back on board and things moving as soon as we can. Our patron is thinking now of retiring, Charlotte Abson. She was one of the lead oncologists at Medway and Maidstone Hospital. So we've got a lot of things that were affected by COVID, in that sense that we weren't able to do a great deal of fundraising. And obviously we don't know what the picture is going to be like for the future. We don't know if events are going to be allowed to be put on, how they're going to be organised. They're going to take a lot of thinking about this time around to make sure people are safe.
They are, and it's really important, isn't it? Excuse my ignorance, what's a pink and green ball?
Well, our colour, our logo is the stargazer lily.
Okay.
And of course, it's pink and white, and it's green.
Ah.
So there's the pink and green. If you look on our website, www.theharmonytherapytrust.org.uk, you'll see lilies all over the place, stargazer lilies. And so that's our logo, and that's where the pink and green ball came in, because of using those colours.
Okay, and I imagine it was full of lilies, was it?
Oh, you should have seen the table that was done. It was beautiful. And we had the lilies, and we had the pink and green butterflies done by origami that somebody donated from Oast House Gifts, and flora. So many people donated things for that ball. And I think at the end, after everything was paid out for, we made about £6,000 on that ball. Excellent. And, you know, when I think of how we've come into Charlie Monroe is our music ambassador. Sue Morrissey, she lives down sort of Folkestone way, no, probably even further along actually, because she's moved. She sings like Ella Fitzgerald, and all the people that we had doing music for us. I mean, if you go on our website, or if you go on our Harmony Facebook pages, you will see a lot of the videos of things and the events that we've had. So do take time to have a look. You'll see what I mean. Okay. We've had fun. We have fun fundraising.
And that's really important, because of course that draws more money in. But I think, you know, the cause that you have chosen to support people with these long-term health conditions, or people with cancer, I think really does it, because it affects so many people. I really think that it inspires a lot of people to give and to donate, and it's a cause that's close to a lot of people's hearts, I think.
Absolutely. I don't think there's one of us who hasn't had cancer in the family, or a close friend with cancer. It's something that affects us. And of course, not just cancer, the people who's had a stroke in the family, or organ failure, you know, kidney failure, people that have had various different conditions, multiple sclerosis. There's so many areas that need support in that way, as well as just the medical intervention. They need the holistic support of as many people as we can.
Definitely. So we've talked about Corona's being a major challenge. What are your other greatest challenges?
People do get tired of you asking to help them for money. So that's one thing, because, you know, you've got big charities, and they've got the presence, they've got the money behind them to put on a big show for you, or to put themselves out in the public. You know, you will see things like Macmillan and the adverts they have on television, or RSPCA adverts. Those adverts cost thousands to produce. Our biggest challenge is getting our message out there and asking for funding and help, at the same time as making sure that people understand that small charities actually struggle far more than the bigger ones. All our admin is done by volunteers. Our rent at the Healthy Living Centre is so low. We keep our absolute outgoings to an absolute minimum. It's less than 10% of our income. So we do feel a bit miffed sometimes when we see these massive adverts that are paid a hell of a lot of money for. We know that the staff and the CEOs have tremendous salaries, and the smaller charities, not just Harmony, but the smaller charities are struggling right now for funding. Yeah. Now, we do apply for funding, don't get me wrong, we do put in funding bids, but there's so many of us going for that same pot of money. One thing I must say is that the Kent County councillors and the Swell councillors have been fantastic. They have, I think it's still 2,500 allotted to them every year to give to local causes and local charities. And they have helped Harmony tremendously over the years. And I don't know where we would have been without their support. So that's the first thing, it's funding. Second thing, it's volunteers that have got specific talents. We need, for example, we need a volunteer who is able to carry on and do all our social media for us, because at the moment that's what I do, and also doing the admin. Being there as well as doing so many things, it's difficult, because I found myself split into so many strips of paper almost, you know. I think, oh, what's my hat on today? And trustees. We need more trustees. We need trustees who have a set of skills, not necessarily because we're going to ask them to do lots of hard work, but because they can guide us and point us in the right direction. Trustees that can tell people and say, hey, have you heard about the Harmony Therapy Trust? They do such good work. Would you donate, I don't know, 2 hours worth of IT training? Or would you be able to donate a prize for, you know, for a raffle or something like that? It's people knowing people that's the important thing when it comes to trustees. We only require trustees to attend 4 meetings a year, one of which is the AGM. So it takes up about, in real terms, about 2 hours every 4 months when it comes to meetings and putting in ideas. But it's the connections and the contacts that they have. And obviously the other side of it is to make sure that we're operating within the law and within the Charity Commission's requirements and things like that. So that's another side of it. But it's not onerous being a trustee, and we need young trustees. We need people that know what it's like out there in the real world. So we need trustees that are between, let's say, 18 and 40, whereas the trustees are probably middle 50s upwards to my age. So, and I'm 72. So, you know, we need people that have got a younger, broader space. And also, I'm not going to be around forever. So I need to know that I can leave it in really good, safe hands.
Fair enough. And again, if you're listening and you're interested, get in touch. My next question is a bit dodgy now, because you've just said you're not going to be around forever. And my next question is, what are your plans for the future? So,
right.
So, sort of nearer term than that, I think, you know.
What are my plans for the future? Well, I'm going to carry on for as long as I can, as long as I'm compos mentis, as long as it's still fun, as long as I'm physically able to do it, and as long as people want me to do it. I mean, I can't think there'd be anything worse than carrying on being somebody running a charity or being a trustee, and then people thinking, hang on, she's a bit past it. You know, that would be awful. So I would go on as long as I physically and mentally am able to do so. That's really, you know, life is good, and we've been through some terrible times, but at the same time, they've also been life affirming, because they've made us look at our priorities differently.
That's true, yeah. And potentially there'll be, well, we were all talking about big changes right at the beginning last April, weren't we? In terms of, you know, we all loved the quiet, and then everybody started saying, no, it's going to go back to the beginning. I'm hoping it's going to be somewhere, we're going to find a
balance. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah, and not go back to the way we were. No, I don't think that's sustainable for people or the environment. But so how can we support the trust? You've talked about becoming a volunteer or needing trustees.
Talking about us, talking about what we do, talking about the benefits. I mean, I have a file full, overflowing of, I don't even want to call it testimonials, because it sounds a bit like a religious organisation, and of course we've got nothing to do with any, although obviously there is a spiritual sense of feeling good when you're well-being and you're feeling well in yourself. But I don't call them testimonials. They're letters of support and thanks. And you'll see, if you go on our website, you'll see straps of them coming across, the, you know, things that people have said. So it's about getting the message out there, and about saying, one of the things that is important to understand why we need the funding. We our therapists are self-employed. We don't employ them. We don't employ anybody. So we're either volunteers or the therapists are self-employed. The therapists have accepted from us a very, very low fee for each patient that becomes their client that we refer to them. So we only pay them £25 a session. Now, when you consider, if you go for, let's say you go for a massage, you can be paying £45, £50 upwards. And on top of that, they give, out of the 6 free treatments we pay for, they give 1 in every 6 free of charge. So in other words, we pay for 5, they donate the 6th one. So in actual fact, that £25 is actually less than the £25. Yeah. That in itself, the reason we pay it is because we have to acknowledge their outgoings, their insurance, what they might pay in rent or using a room in their house, their equipment, their PPE now, which is obviously has come very expensive, because obviously they have to have that all the time and keep cleaning down, because they have to clean between each, even more deeply than they would do between each client. So that takes less time they can give to their own clients maybe. So we acknowledge their skills by paying them a nominal amount. So that's why we need the funding. Also, obviously, for our overheads, although they're very small, we do need that funding. So it's about saying to people why we seek funding, how it's spent, the fact that we don't have any salaried people at all, the fact that everybody that works within Harmony administration does it free of charge, as obviously do the trustees. And even some therapists refuse to accept payment from us. They'll send the forms back into us to make sure that the treatment's been carried out, but they say, no, we'll do this free of charge. So it's a mixture. And obviously the therapists volunteer whether they do it free of charge or not, but we offer that payment because we acknowledge that they are highly skilled. People don't realise that therapists have to train anatomy and physiology almost to nursing level. They have to understand why certain medicines are given and what side effects they have. So their skills have to be renewed all the time with CPD, continuing professional development. So they have to pay for that. They have to pay for their insurance. They have to pay to belong to professional bodies. They have to pay to have their police check, their DBS check. So all of these things, we have to acknowledge that although we only pay a little bit towards it, we are acknowledging it, and we're saying, look, here's a contribution towards your outgoings for helping Harmony and Harmony's patients. So explain that they're an NHS patient or a private patient. They become a beneficiary when they're referred to us. And then when we refer them to the therapist, they become the therapist client. So okay. Patient, beneficiary, client. That's how we see people when they come through our hands.
Okay. So yeah, so keep talking about it and potentially donate, hopefully.
Potentially donate, and also organise a fundraiser. I mean, it's so easy to do something silly, you know, a walk dressed up as something silly. I know we've had people do that before now. We've had people do a skydive for us. We've had people climbing buildings. That was organised by the Kent Messenger Group several years running. And it's good when the Kent Messenger organise it, because we don't have to pay for the marshals, the safety and everything else. That's all done for you. So they will take a small fee from what you make out of your sponsors to cover those outgoings. So that means we don't have to research the heavy outgoings that you would normally have if you did something like that.
I just had this very strange thought. I did a podcast with Gary Walker from the Sheppey Fossil Forum, and I was just thought, oh, we could do a sponsored fossil hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of shark's teeth you can find.
Exactly.
And yeah. And I believe selenite as well, as you know, the crystal selenite. That's quite, especially sort of towards the other end of Minster. Yeah. So you know, glass hunt. There's you know, your friend.
Oh, Nicola, yeah.
that sends it off to people, you know, saying, look, donate these bags of glass that you find. The other thing I wanted to tell you about is our happiness kits. We have, it's in a little, I haven't got any here, so I can't show you, but it's in a little gauze bag, and it has 6 items in it. And it has a coin so you can never say you're broke, piece of string to tie things together when they fall apart, a rubber band to stretch yourself beyond your limits. Now, what else is it? Oh, an eraser so you can rub out your mistakes, a heart to remind you that somebody loves you, and a muffler in case somebody says you're losing yours. And it comes in a little gauze bag, and we charge £1 for it. So if we go and give a talk to anybody, say we talk to, I don't know, fibromyalgia group, or multiple sclerosis, or Parkinson's, or a breast cancer support group, or prostate cancer support group, we'll take these along and we just pass them around and say, look, if you want one, take one, pop a £1 coin in, and we sell them for £1. Now, they cost us pennies to make, to get the items together, but the thing that does cost is the time. So if anybody wants to volunteer to make our happiness kits up for us, I've got all the gubbins here for the making, and so that would be lovely too. Excellent.
Okay, again, shout out. We talked quite a bit last time about the Isle of Sheppey in general, but I wanted to focus this podcast on specifically what the Isle of Sheppey can do to provide support to those in need, because I thought that was more appropriate to this podcast. What are your ideas?
Wow. The island community does an awful lot. All the different organisations in themselves and the individuals that belong to them do a great deal for the island. I think we probably are one of the most supported communities, despite us being labelled a deprived area. I think that the number of people that care so much about this community is, you just lose count. You know, fingers and toes wouldn't be enough. There's just so many people that care. And I think more than anything, what is required is from time to time, the different communities, the different charities, the different support groups, is to get in contact with each other. Communication is the absolute vital key to everything. I obviously, when I say to you that we are an island charity, we were born here, we were founded here, we were cradled here, but because everything has a limit, people were starting to ask about us throughout the whole of Kent. And we made the decision right from the very beginning that one day it would cover the whole of Kent. And we've done that by, I think, we got the Kent Messenger Charity of the Year in 2014. So I think by that time, when they launched us as their Charity of the Year, all the Kent Messenger newspapers got to hear about us, and we became Kent-wide. We've always said that we're centred here on the island because it was the island that gave us the support that we needed. But I do think that all organisations need to talk to each other and to talk to other charitable support groups throughout the county. Because yes, we're an island, yes, we're a very close community, but the phrase "no man is an island" is absolutely true. And I think we need to reach out to other groups so much.
Okay.
I think that's where the support comes.
Okay.
No one individual thing, just communicating with other organisations and businesses, local entrepreneurs. For example, I mean, a case is name dropping, but Faith Glass, you know, Faith that does those beautiful glass. She's donated so many things for us to sell on our various events. I mean, she's just been, and it's just a simple little support. She doesn't make a big deal of it. She just says, oh, by the way, I'm dropping these off for you. Yeah. And then we've got this, you know, it's things like that.
Really make a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, makes a big difference.
Okay. So hopefully people will be inspired by this podcast to get more involved with the Harmony Therapy Trust, or to get more involved with each other. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dawn, again.
Thank you for asking me again.
And another brilliant podcast, so thank you. And thank you again to our our listeners rather than our visitors. And this is your podcast. If you want to contribute, to give us any ideas, get in touch at simplysheppy@gmail.com, or on our Facebook page @simplysheppy.